So for the second time this year, Senate Republicans voted down a bipartisan border security package that they had demanded. In a 43-50 vote with 6 Democrats joining Republicans, the GOP killed the package that they helped to write, calling the renewed vote simply political theater. Senate Republicans killed the package initially back in February on the orders of former President Trump so he could deprive President Biden of a legislative win and campaign on this issue. In a response to the bill's failure, the White House released a statement that reads in part, "Congressional Republicans have enough time to travel to New York to kiss Trump's boots, but not enough courage to side with the American people and Border Patrol over fentanyl traffickers." Meanwhile, Independent Senator Kyrsten Sinema, one of the lead negotiators on the bill, had this to say about why she voted yesterday against her own legislation.
My Democratic colleagues blamed Republican political theater for blocking action. So did I. They were right. I spoke here on the Senate floor twice in defense of our legislation. It turns out my Republican colleagues were all talk and no action. Today, though, my Democratic colleagues have chosen more political theater instead of real efforts to solve this crisis. All talk and no action goes both ways.
Not sure about that. And that brings us, though, to this. During a House Oversight Committee hearing on Wednesday, Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz mocked his GOP colleagues for their, quote, accomplishments since taking control of the House. Take a look.
It's a little awkward when you want to disagree with someone on your side of the aisle, but I have to dramatically disagree with my colleague, Ms. Crockett, who used data and statistics and facts to claim that this is the least productive Congress in modern history. First of all, this Congress removed the Speaker, okay, which has never happened in the history of the Republic. That's clearly that's a big accomplishment. In the 118th. This Congress took 15 rounds to even elect that speaker that they then removed, right, which was historic in its own right. And then they removed a member of their own party. That hadn't happened in 20 years, so kudos to them. They've had a failed impeachment of a president. I don't think we've seen that happen in a really long time. This Congress did impeach a cabinet secretary, though, without meeting any constitutional threshold. We haven't seen that happen in 150 years. This Congress wants to hold Merrick Garland in contempt and then possibly arrest him. I don't think we've ever seen that in the history of the Republic. We've seen a failed motion to vacate to remove a second speaker. Again, history in the 118th. And who could forget that this Congress, on behalf of the American people, saved gas stoves and ovens and toasters and blenders and dishwashers from the communist grip of energy standards. So I think Ms. Crockett was pointing out that this is least productive. These seem to be accomplishments on behalf of the American people that are clearly historic and may never be repeated in another Congress.
So, Jen Palmieri, the congressman's litany there, too long to fit on a bumper sticker for the Republicans' House re-election committee. But he's right. I mean, they have been historic and historically unproductive and in some ways tearing themselves apart. Just speak to us, though, as we barrel into another election year, just these scenes of chaos, these scenes of unproductivity that resonate with voters?
I think that I think it does. When you hear Hakeem Jeffries talk about it, it's the extreme MAGA agenda, right? And that's like the Democrats are House Democrats in a new twist are very disciplined, and they have that's a message that I think resonates for whether it's about abortion, whether it's about propping up Donald Trump rather than passing the immigration bill. It's a message that ladders up to a larger argument for why you want to keep the Republicans out of control of the House, and also for and also against Trump. And I think that people seem to get this point. I remember when President Biden first went to the border a few months ago to talk about after the bill first failed. There was a poll after that, 63% of people thought that it was the House Republicans' fault for killing that bill. I think the White House needs to do another round of that, probably, to really reinforce them. That's probably what this vote is about. But I do think that message takes hold.
Jen, do you think that there will be executive action coming soon from the White House? And how necessary politically is it for Joe Biden to show that he's willing to do something to stop the flow of immigration, but maybe with no help from Congress, and he has to go by it alone?
There was some excellent reporting in Politico yesterday on this very point about the White House is concerned about immigration and crime, and that they felt like that the White House has always understood that both crime and immigration were a vulnerability. I think that is. I suspect this is why we had the Senate take that vote yesterday, to set the stage one more time for the president to say, we did everything we can to pass this legislatively, and it didn't happen, and perhaps take some sort of administrative action and do that before the debate. Immigration's never going to be a huge win for Democrats, but it is a enormous motivating factor for the other side, and swing voters are very concerned about it. It's a big issue here in the state of New York, right? And they have to do something to show they get it. He's done a lot to try to get under control, and the Republicans are the ones standing in the way to meet a bar with voters that they're going to give him a passing grade, at least on that.
I recognize one of the bylines on that Politico
just like
piece.
some more really astute reporting.
Yeah, every so often. Certainly, though, the White House is at times had to spurn progressives for issues like immigration and crime, feeling that will resonate more for voters. But on the Republican side, Katty, as Jen noted, defeating that border bill that they wrote, that was simply because Donald Trump told them to.
Yeah, and let's see if there is any political pushback against them for doing so. I mean, the Democrats certainly hope that they can point to the Republicans and say that they were being cynical or hypocritical, but, let's see whether that actually has any fallout.